Hello and good afternoon. It's Adil Fazal here, market analyst for CFDS.com or CFDs.com, a leading spread betting and CFD brokerage. If you'd like to know more about these services and pre-products, please just visit CFDS.com, www.cfds.com, and learn more with regards to the free products and services. Okay, it's been a long time coming, should we say, since my last video. Unfortunately, I've had personal circumstances. I lost my child, almost 13 weeks old. Unfortunately, as God wills, that's His obviously ultimate wisdom as to the reasons why. We are mere mortals, we are His servants, and we have to accept His decree and His ultimate wisdom because it exceeds and is far superior than ours. I'm blessed to have two children already, a girl and a boy, so I'm very, very grateful to Him for everything that He has given thus far. Unfortunately, my missus, she has had the tough task of getting through it because she does have a pacemaker, so it is hard. But having said that, it's God's wisdom and God's ultimate benevolence that we are in the position that we are, because there are other couples that can't even have kids. So we are very grateful for everything that we have. We have a good life, a comfortable life. And we are living in the West, so we enjoy our freedoms, etc., etc., and we have the ability to earn, to have a good shelter. So we should always look at the good things in life. Okay, folks. So having said that, apologies for not making the videos. The videos will now start to be on a daily basis again, and I'll get back into the groove as obviously life returns back to normality. Hopefully, I'm going to get the pre-morning market report out as well. I'm going to get that started as well. And hopefully start some webinars, etc., on behalf or working with CFDs.com. Okay, so let's start with regards to the FTSE 100. Let's see where this market is. Okay, so Asian markets overnight. First of all, I think the talk of the town is devaluation or yuan devaluation. Okay, so even though the Asian markets were down pretty heavily overnight, they did manage to obviously stage a comeback and a reversal late towards the session. So even though we had weaker GDP out of Japan, the markets didn't care. They just interpreted that as being bullish. Even though we had the concerns with regards to yuan devaluation, again the markets did not care. Having said that, initially the markets rallied, then they sold off, then they pushed back again, and then obviously they sold off towards the European close. So again, it's the yuan devaluation phase, and that certainly seems to be trumping everything at present. Okay, so let's start to break this market down. So FTSE 100 to start off with. The reason why the FTSE 100 was weak today was because of the BOE. One of the individuals from the BOE, or represents the BOE, basically was very hawkish and started basically hawkish rhetoric. That's all we can put it down to. Obviously that causes sterling to rise, and in turn obviously hurts exports and hurts the obviously the demand side of the equation, or the consumption side of the equation, given the fact that 60 to 70 to 80% of GDP is obviously dictated by consumption. So given the fact that interest rates rises, or we have a stronger currency and the rate rises, again that's a double whammy in terms of a negative scenario on equities. Okay, and that obviously has the impact that it did initially. So let's just bring up the FTSE 100 daily chart thus far. So FTSE daily, here we go, FTSE 100. Bring up a daily chart of the FTSE 100. Okay, so daily chart itself is a doji. So interesting scenario where basically where the commodity side of the equation, again, let's just bring up the commodities. Have I got the commodities? I unfortunately don't, so I'll have to just add that in, so bear with me. Whilst I just quickly search for and adding commodities, crude, full future, here we go. So crude side of the equation is added. Let's just add the dollar side of the equation as well, US dollar. DJFX, actually DJFX, here we go, DJFX, bear with me, there we go, DJFX CM dollar. So here we go, we've got that. We need to add that in as well. We need to add in GBP USD as well. So if I can just give you a true reflection of what's happening here. Okie dokie, right, here we go. Okay, right. that's the scenario that we find ourselves. Okay, so let's just bring up the chart of oil as well, because oil generally tends to dictate itself, although it has stabilized now. I mean, looking at a 10-minute chart, we did bounce off the lows around 1 o'clock, although we are trading sideways and attempting to hold the space at 41.8. Okay, so the FTSE 100 is a doji in a daily chart candle. The weekly chart again also does indicate a potential support zone for the FTSE 100 itself. Now going into the intraday and trying to explain exactly what happened intraday. Let's just start with a 10-minute chart and then I'll zoom out to a 60. Okay, so initially we had this inverted head and shoulders formation where we attempted to. Obviously the market failed because of the situation with regards to BOE, Haldane, etc. Okay, so initially we spike up or gap higher at 6,585. Market obviously sells off quite substantially, hits a pivot low at 6,521, bounces. Amica bounce itself up to 6,550 before it obviously en masse sell off again. The pivot low being put in was around the 6,508, and then obviously the market reversed back up to the 6,565 region. Okay, and we are into this resistance zone as we speak, based on this diagonal trend line. Okay, so and also 200 MA. Okay, so initially, like I said, the hawkish comments certainly weighed on the FTSE 100 itself, given the fact that you've got a rate rise regardless of inflation being weak, etc., etc. And they were the comments. If I can recollect correctly, if I just go back to my timeline as well, in terms of the hawkish comments, BOE's Forbes comments on UK interest rates needs hike well before inflation hits target. So again, that certainly isn't good news for the UK consumer, okay, and okay, UK businesses either. So that itself caused the panic or en masse sell-off before we had a bounce back around the 9 o'clock region. That's when obviously the commodities were into support, etc., and oil started to move and make a move. Now if I go back to the pivot low, and you'll see that we certainly had the move in oil as well. Okay, now we also had the dollar side of the equation itself. The dollar side of the equation, we are building this on a daily chart. At present, you can see this bear flag formation. So again, that does bode well for the actual FTSE 100 itself. So that's something to bear in mind. Okay. Right, so with regards to the FTSE itself, let's go back to the 10-minute chart now, and let's see if we can project going forward. So 10-minute chart obviously is into this resistance level at 6,566. So in terms of resistance zone, this certainly is a solid resistance zone. Then you have 6,585 resistance zone. Obviously, if you go higher, then you got 6,600. But this 6,565 certainly is an important pivot. Okay, now one factor here as well, just highlight a particular pattern going into tomorrow. Just bear this in mind, folks. We do have an inverted head and shoulders formation in the FTSE 100. So again, provided this neckline holds now, okay, so you obviously built a base, you put in your right shoulder, we come back, we retest this 6,550 level. If that holds, and obviously we can start to move higher. We also have a inverted head and shoulders within an inverted head and shoulders. So obviously we've got this neckline now. If you come back, bounce back from a 6,550 region, obviously then start to bounce higher, and then you can certainly see the inverted head and shoulders pattern in the larger scheme of things. Okay, so provided we don't take out, or we hold the 6,510 pivot low or 6,508 pivot low, then you are looking for a bullish scenario in terms of the FTSE 100, which again, like I said, is confirmed by the dollar index. If you look at the dollar index, you have a bear flag formation here. Okay, so we're obviously consolidating this bearish phase here. Okay, so with regards to the dollar, and then obviously starting to move lower. If we move low on the dollar index, given the fact that the yuan or the Chinese situation certainly has obviously forced Yellen's hand, i.e. she can't raise rates this year, given the deflationary spiral ongoing, given the fact that commodities are still certainly in the doldrums, as you can see with regards to crude oil around the 41 level. If I bring up the chart of crude oil, as you can see here, still it's collapsing as we speak at 41.90. So we're struggling to build a base at 41.60, 41.80. So that certainly doesn't bode well for obviously inflation. And the only way you can obviously justify raising rates is if there is no threat of deflation, and that obviously is the case, especially with regards to the Chinese devaluation. Obviously that hurts the demand side of the equation for commodities, and obviously in terms of exports for the US, that certainly doesn't bode well either. So again, certainly a double whammy and more concerns, especially after the fact that we will just about overcome the Greece situation. So that certainly doesn't bode well for the US consumer. Okay, so again, FTSE 100, certainly keep an eye out for that on the 10-minute chart. The 5-minute chart, nothing really other than the fact that obviously we are into this resistance at 6,565 for the FTSE 100. If we go to the 60-minute chart now, okay, 60-minute chart, we certainly seem to have have broken out. We've held this support level at 6508, which is quite imperative, quite important. Nothing really of any real, only thing I can look at here is that we have this downward sloping contracting wedge, which again hasn't really been respected, so I'm going to ignore that for now, other than the fact that we can take this pivot high here, just trying to connect the pivots across, and you have broken out this potential downward sloping channel. Okay, so again we've put in a bullish engulfing candle, we've negated this bearish engulfing candle. So again, this candle will dictate the pivot low being 6530, provided we don't go below 6530 and obviously test this 6540 region. Then the FTSE 100 certainly has the ability to certainly propel and move higher from my perspective. Okay, but again, it depends on how the markets react and how the markets are markets are interpreting everything. The concern that I have was with regards to the German German and European indices. That really is a concern for me in terms of their weakness, and that itself can drag the FTSE 100 down. But again, keep an eye on the dollar, keep an eye on oil with regards to the future direction of the FTSE, and obviously the yuan devaluation as well, and the concerns with regards to that. Okay folks, so I think that's a wrap up with regards to the FTSE itself. Again, doji candle at key pivotal support 6520, 6510. If that level can hold, then we can certainly start to propel higher. In the larger scheme of things, like I said, you do have this inverted head and shoulders formation. So again, in the larger scheme of things, you are looking at a potential bullish scenario based on that bear flag on the US dollar index, which again will help commodities if the dollar were to move lower. And as we all know, this is a commodity index, therefore obviously the FTSE will start to propel higher as well. Now there are other indices, just before I do finish, just wrap this up. Okay. FTSE 100, FTSE Europe for example, FTSE Europe, as you can see, is holding support here, so again adds to the argument that the FTSE is starting to propel higher. The FTSE All Share is in this putting a doji candle, and obviously is a lower channel support, this symmetrical wedge. The FTSE 250 probably is the only one that I'm concerned about, given the fact that it's still in this bearish engulfing scenario or candle, and given the fact that yes, you do have Mr. Forbes or Mrs. Forbes basically, BOE Forbes basically talking about obviously a hawkish stance. Therefore sterling rises and obviously FTSE 250 gets hit the hardest out of the lot in terms of the reliance upon exports. Okay, the actual volatility index is telling you that the FTSE itself is obviously fear is now being shunned. Okay, is not being embraced because we're holding that resistance zone. If we do pull back, then obviously that's bullish for the FTSE 100 itself. So again, it does hinge upon what Miss Yellen obviously decides, and obviously we'll have to keep an eye on the commodity side of the equation as well, and obviously the Chinese yuan devaluation scenario. Okay, that's a wrap. So risk on, risk off, wax on, wax off. Be sure to open an account at cfds.com. Okay, certainly join me there with regards to trading. And so be sure to check out the cfds.education website, where I constantly post my charts, analysis and videos too. Okay, goodbye.